Imagine this. You've just inherited your parents' home, and it was the one you grew up in, where you spent holidays, where your memories were made. And instead of feeling joy, you feel dread. Why is this? Well, because 40% of heirs in America say they simply cannot afford an inherited property. Today, we're going to talk about when legacy becomes a burden, and specifically to do with properties, and how families can plan to make sure that it's a blessing instead. Let's get into it.
It's just that the planning didn't account for the practical reality of the time. What did you say, 32 episodes now? We're going through all these things, and you're a young man, and you're talking about all these legacy things and whatnot. How has this been helpful to you in terms of like your learning and as you kind of envision your life?
People watching, they're probably thinking you and I have already had like all of these conversations. Y'all are kind of like watching us have these conversations together as well. As we have the conversation, I'm also learning about your plans are, what your... Welcome back to the Legacy Life Podcast, everyone. This is episode 32.
Yes.
That is crazy to me. But anyways, we'll move on from that.
Yep.
The year's moving by far too quickly.
It is.
Far, far too quickly.
Surely.
But today we're going to talk about an extension of our conversation last week.
Yeah.
So we talked about the great wealth transfer.
Right.
And how an overview of that, how that specifically for your home, what that looks like. And even though you may feel like you're not a huge portion of whatever the statistic was, $84 trillion that's going to be transferred in the next 20 years, which is insane.
Yeah.
The great wealth transfer is your wealth transfer. And that is a great wealth transfer in and of itself. And then we talked about some practical steps on how to make sure that that's taken care of for people.
Yeah.
And we sent a roadmap out in that one. And so if you haven't watched that one, go watch that one, look at the graphic we sent, and then come back and watch this one. Because this is a bit of an extension, which we talked about last week.
Yeah.
A little bit
We're
about...
going to kind of drill down on a specific
We're going to
aspect.
drill down on the property aspect of it, which we had a conversation afterwards, which I wish we would have put in the episode, so we'll put it in here now.
Yeah.
But I had mentioned that, most people in my generation have no hopes or dreams of buying a home or owning a home right now.
Yeah.
Which sucks, but I mean, it's possible, and there are many that do,
Mm-hmm.
right? But many of us, it's like, it's going to be a uphill battle for sure.
Yeah.
And so you were just saying, it's like, okay, yeah. So, there's also inherited properties. And so how can you position that and everything like that? But then we're going to talk about today how sometimes that can be a burden on people as well.
Yes.
And so we're going to kind of get into that today.
Yeah. Because there is, it's Kiplinger's report, 40% of heirs cannot afford their inherited properties. And that's due to things like property taxes, upkeep, and maintenance costs that accompany the inherited property.
Yep.
I think, when you break down those costs, I think Zillow reports that the average annual, this kind of surprised me a little bit, but they're saying the annual property tax in the U.S. is around $2,800. And I kind of was like, okay, but...
There's some states that are way higher than that.
Yeah, I was like, our friends in Pennsylvania might be like, right, whatever,
Right. It's like New Jersey and Illinois is probably far.
PA.
Exactly.
New York.
Yeah.
But New Jersey, Illinois, those two, they can be over $8,000 a year. So it's relative, but if that's the average, okay. But there's some other people out there laughing their head off right now going, yeah, I wish.
Sure. But even if it is $2,800, you add insurance on top of that.
Homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Routine maintenance can average 1% to 4% of the home's value every year.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Big ticket repairs, roofs, plumbing, appliances, different things like that. And so suddenly, if the planning's not done right, then the free house feels like an anchor and a burden rather than something that can be enjoyed because there's like this extra, thing that has to be paid for to be maintained.
Right. Because the heart behind it is, hey, like I want this house to stay part of the family. whether it's, like I also want to take care of my children
Yeah.
and give them another asset, right?
Right.
Which is good, right?
Yeah.
But you need to look at, okay, how to best do that, how to best transfer that over,
Right.
what to set in place to make it less of a burden.
So it's like the emotions will sometimes collide with the reality.
Yep.
Right. And, keep it at home, keep it in the family. But the collision with the reality can come in, and sometimes the children might say, well, we can't afford this. So I think, like we talked about last week with the family who had the cottage that they were hoping they could give to their kids, and they would continue to make memories there and visit there. But in that situation, it's, it needed a new roof. Taxes were due, and suddenly people are arguing about who's going to do what and where that money's going to come from. And so that turned into a situation, like we said, where resentment began to build between people rather than bring people together. So they sold it, divided the money, and then a lot of them didn't really gather much after that.
Which is really sad.
It really is.
So because it completely goes against what they were hoping.
Exactly. And it's not like their kids were ungrateful.
Right.
It wasn't like that at all. It's just that the planning didn't account for the practical reality of the time. And some of those kids lived out of state. So getting there, it's more difficult, right? I mean, one of your set of grandparents lived in Florida during the winter times, and we didn't get a chance to visit them all the time because it was hard to get there and back, and the expense of it. So, the legacy can become a burden sometimes rather than a blessing, even though that's not what the initial intention was.
Right.
So now we don't have to, we can talk about a successful story too.
Yeah.
Okay. Because on the flip side, I know a family that had a farmhouse that been in the family for a long time, and they wanted, of course, to stay in the family. That's very common. But they knew that the upkeep would be an issue. So they kind of had the foresight. So what they did is the three main things they did is they sat down, they talked to their kids ahead of time, confirming and said, do you guys want to keep this farmhouse? Is that important to you? Okay. And so they did. And so what they did is they then created a family trust, and the trust was able to be set up with proceeds from life insurance. Basically, life insurance proceeds went in and was there to help fund the ongoing taxes, the repairs, and so forth, and the upkeep. So there was a financial benefit in a financial instrument, in a legal instrument, to help continue to take care of those expenses because they knew they wanted the kids to be there. That alleviated the financial burden to the point where now the family can enjoy the farmhouse and just enjoy the farmhouse.
Right.
Right? Knowing that there was plenty of proceeds for a long time invested properly, which we help people do as well, to make sure that there's an ongoing income stream to help take care of those things.
Exactly.
That's where planning gets exciting for me.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Right.
It's
like they come into the room.
Legacy established.
Legacy established.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
So kids still gather at the farmhouse. It's a blessing, and it just because there was conversation ahead of time. Now, if the kids had said no, we're not really interested in having it, other plans could have been made.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is the opposite outcome, and it's not because the farmhouse was easier to maintain than the other vacation home. It's the conversation, the planning that happened ahead of time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So we talk about how to avoid burdening our heirs. Well, we ask before we assume. Mom and dad might say, oh, our kids love this place. Let me look at them. They're having fun. We're going to give it to them. We're going to continue to have fun. And they don't talk about it.
We hear it all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of assumptions about how people will handle it or react or.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So ask before you assume. Have the conversations. Number 2, provide liquidity. If you can, in your planning, provide, whether it's life insurance proceeds or some other way, depending on the portfolio or whatever, cash reserves of some part that could be used to help maintain that property. If even just for a time, if it doesn't have to be forever necessarily, maybe for an extended period of time, though, so the family can transition and, they have time because you're talking to them ahead of time. They'll have time to plan, saying, okay, mom and dad are going to leave us enough proceeds to take care of the house for 5 years. And so we can plan now. So after that 5 years, we'll be able to pick it up ourselves,
Right.
or maybe they do sell it at that time. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, the liquidity is going to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And, if multiple heirs are inheriting the property, um, make sure your plan is written up so it outlines, here are the costs, here's the usage. This is what would trigger a sale for the home. Like, all the contingencies are in there.
Right. This is how we would like you to share it. Things like that,
Exactly. So, I can think of, like, growing up myself, like, we used to go to this place. Okay, we're in Michigan, so we say up north.
Mm-hmm.
If you say up north and you live in Michigan, everyone knows what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
I talk to my friends in other states. I'm like, I'm going up north. They're like, where?
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry.
Right. Yeah.
You don't live in my state.
Uh-huh.
What it means here is, and like my grandma, your great grandmother, who we talk about a lot here, she, she lived on a nice lake in northern Michigan, and we would go there for a week or 2 weeks every summer and spend time there and eat her delicious sticky buns. And my cousins and I would be out in the water and boating and hiking and target practicing and games. And it was just such an enjoyable time. I have great memories of doing a lot of that with my aunts and uncles and my cousins and so forth. To now where my grandma, that house is not in the family, but I still have cousins and family who still go up to that same lake.
Yeah.
Have maybe their own cottage up there now, but the place holds that memory for us, right? And so, I really think, if we're all honest, a lot of us have those places that we like. And if it's not a piece of real estate, maybe it's a place, and maybe your legacy plan has a way to help continue to finance so family can still travel to that place.
Yeah.
And continue to have those family reunions or whatever it is that made it so special. That can be another thing. It doesn't have to be an actual piece of real estate, but
Mm-hmm.
so, and the other thing too, the alternative to this is sometimes the best gift is selling the property itself.
Yeah.
Right. And passing on liquid assets that can actually serve your heirs' lives in a different way. That can also be a thing. And, maybe it's not that it can be sold after you pass. Maybe it's time to liquidate it before you pass and just allocate those funds in a different way for inheritance.
Yep.
That can be a thing to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So to be open to all things.
Yes.
But anything else you want to say to that at this point?
Yeah, no, I think it, again, just kind of keeps coming down to, like, just communication and bringing, your hopes and desires alongside with reality as well. I think those are all really important aspects of it, because ultimately, like, the hope is that you would be able to, have your wishes carried out the way that you'd like them to, and, keep those memories in the family and keep it in there generation to generation, and make sure that they're taken care of and not left with a lot of burden. Although any sort of transfer of assets is like somewhat of a burden, because it's just an extra responsibility in a sense, but there doesn't need to be a lot of added burden. But you need to have the conversations and you need to talk about it, because there are a lot of different options out there. Like the last point you made, a lot of different alternatives depending on your situation and things like that. You'd be surprised how much you can actually make happen with what you have. It's just positioning things correctly.
Yeah.
And so really having the conversation is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess just a question I have before we kind of close here for you, as we, what did you say, 32 episodes now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going through all these things, and you're a young man and you're talking about all these legacy things and whatnot. Has this been helpful? How has this been helpful to you in terms of like your learning, and as you kind of envision your life as, as a young man and think about your future in these ways? What has this done for you?
Yeah. It's been very helpful. I think just because, especially somebody in their early 20s like me, you don't really take the time to think about these things, especially, I guess not everyone in my age bracket, but a lot of us were kind of in, all right, it's time to put your head down and work. And, we're building our wealth right now. We're starting that process.
Right.
But I mean, I don't have, at least my own family to take care of outside of like my immediate family and my church community that I want to take care of. So there's like some added responsibility there, which was kind of a blessing growing up in the church community that we were in, because you kind of like learn that, the idea of generational, like community, and even transfer, not even of assets, but of teachings and wisdom and life experience and things like that. And so that might be a little bit different for some people, but it's been very helpful, just for me to kind of look at a big picture of my life, but then also realize that so much can change in the next 30 years or so. And so, not to get so caught up on like whatever my idea or ideal of life is, but instead to just be like, all right, well, things are going to look different. I kind of have a direction.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to start moving in that direction. But not even just in this specific like conversation about property transfer, because I have
Right.
I have no property to transfer to anybody, but
Yeah.
I've heard conversations with a lot of different clients and had conversations with you. So
Yeah.
I have some things to share about it, I guess, just from experience.
Yeah.
But just in general, over the last 32 episodes, it's one, learning to communicate better because we're literally just talking.
Right.
Two, it's been helpful just with all the statistics and learning all that. Three, even like
Kind of opens your world, those statistics, doesn't it?
opens the world, right?
Yeah.
But then also, like, people watching, they're probably thinking like you and I have already had like all of these conversations, but y'all are kind of like watching us have these conversations together as well. And so as we have the conversation, I'm also learning about, what your plans are, what your opinions are on certain things, or
Yeah.
your life experience, because obviously I don't know all of it either, and so, us telling you guys to have a conversation about what, you would like to happen or how you want to transfer these things, like him and I are actively having these conversations as we do this. And so we're like learning, oh, this is actually helpful, this works and this doesn't.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've been doing this for like almost 2 decades now with other families, so you have a lot of experience there.
Wow, don't remind me how old I'm getting here.
Right, exactly, yeah. But
And you and your siblings are starting to come of age now, where it's like these conversations can really begin to happen
yeah,
on a different level than when you were kids and we're teaching you the basic financial principles.
exactly, right, yeah. And it's like you're watching me start to traverse an adult relationship with my dad, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
there's all these special moments that may seem kind of, just mundane, or like, oh, these guys know what they're talking about. It's like, no, we're like learning with you guys too. But there is some expertise more so on this side of the camera than on this side. I'm more so here to learn and give what I can. But it's been really cool. And to kind of get myself behind growing something as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously right now, well, I think this morning I checked, we're at like 151 subscribers, which it's starting to steadily go
Yeah.
up. It's
Each
starting,
week
each week it's going up a little bit faster, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
By the way.
and like we love all y'all guys, and so we want to be able to provide for you, helpful content and things to consume.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you have any ideas, always share, always reach out. Our email and ways to schedule appointments with us are in like all of our descriptions.
Yep.
And so it should be very easy. We're on all kinds of social media and stuff. So get a hold of us if you want. But yeah, so it's been really cool. I think I have more thoughts about it, but I think I'm just rambling at this point. So I just...
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be quiet.
Yeah,
It's time
yeah,
to wrap
yeah.
it up. Yeah.
Right. It's
Okay.
like, why are you talking so much on the podcast?
Right.
Yeah. Why are you sharing thoughts?
Right. Why are we doing that?
Yeah. Right.
No, this has been great.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for answering that. So thanks again for being with us today. If you have not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and we'll be with you every Monday with a new episode. And we look forward to being with you again next week. Take care.